Welcome to Zen Mind Temple. Tonight, I'm going to share 11 remarkable Zen stories that have helped millions of people finally silence their racing thoughts and drift into the most peaceful sleep of their lives. Each story contains a hidden key that unlocks your mind's natural ability to let go of stress and worry. And here's what makes this different from ordinary sleep meditation. These teachings work even if you've never meditated before. Even if your mind won't stop racing, even if you've tried. Everything else, the Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. In the next 3 hours, adjust your pillow. Let your body become heavy against the bed. Take one deep breath with me now, and as you exhale, know that you've just taken the first step on a journey that's been waiting for you since the beginning of time. Let's begin with our first story. Imagine a mountain temple nestled between green peaks like a leaf caught in the crook of a branch. The air here smells of pine and damp earth, especially in the early morning, when the dew still clings to the edges of the stone paths. There is a monk who lives here, not young but not old. Either his hair has the soft gray of a dove's wing, and his hands are weathered, as if they've spent decades tracing the grain of wood or the curve of river stones. Every morning, just as the first light seeps over the eastern ridge, he walks to a corner of the temple courtyard. There, sitting heavy and unyielding, is a boulder. It's not a pretty stone, mind you. It's jagged, pockmarked by rain and wind. Its surface as rough as unpolished flint. No grass grows on it. No moss clings to its sides. The other monks have long since ignored it, stepping around it on their way to the kitchen or the meditation hall, as one might step around a cracked bowl functional, but unremarkable. But this monk, he stops. He kneels beside the boulder, his robes pooling around him like a dark cloud, and he stares at it. Not with frustration, not with longing, but with the kind of attention you might give to a sleeping child, quiet, patient, full of gentle curiosity. Then he takes a small pouch from his sleeve, opens it, and sprinkles something onto the stone. It's not much, just a handful of seeds, tiny as grains of sand, mixed with a pinch of soil he's carried from the garden. The first time the other monks noticed, they whispered, "What is he doing?" One asked, watching from the kitchen door as the monk brushed his fingers over the stone surface, as if tucking the seeds in for a nap. "Stones don't grow flowers," another said, shaking his head. "He's wasting his time." But the monk didn't seem to hear. Or if he did, he paid no mind. Day after day, he returned. He brought water from the well, cupping it in his hands and letting it seep into the cracks of the boulder. He cleared away the fallen pine needles that settled on top, as if sweeping a small, sacred space. When the wind blew and scattered the seeds, he collected them, one by one, and placed them back. When rain poured and threatened to wash everything away, he stood beside the stone with an umbrella made of bamboo and oiled paper, sheltering it not with urgency, but with the calm of someone who knows that storms pass. Months passed. Spring turned to summer, and the temple garden burst into color peonies unfurling their pink skirts, chrysanthemums pushing through the soil, lotus flowers floating like cups of light on the pond. The boulder, though, remained the same. Gray, hard, unyielding. One afternoon, a young novice, new to the temple, approached the monk as he knelt by the stone. The novice's eyes were wide with curiosity, his hands clasped behind his back. "Venerable one," he said, his voice soft, but eager, "why do you do this? The stone will never grow flowers. It has no soil, no life. You are trying in vain." The monk looked up, his eyes crinkling at the corners like old paper. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out and brushed a finger over the stone's surface, as if feeling its heartbeat. Then he turned to the novice and smiled. "Tell me, little one," he said, "what is a flower, really?" The novice blinked. "A flower is a flower. It has petals and a stem, It grows from the earth. Ah, the monk said, nodding. But before it is a flower, it is a seed. And a seed, when buried, does not rush to bloom. It waits. It rests. It listens to the earth around it, to the rhythm of the rain and the warmth of the sun. It does not struggle. It does not force. It simply is until the time is right. He paused, glancing back at the stone. This boulder, does it not hold the same possibility? The seeds are here, even if we cannot see them growing. The water seeps into its cracks. The sun warms its surface. Who are we to say what is possible? The novice frowned. But it is a stone. It cannot change. Cannot change, the monk repeated, his voice gentle. Or do we simply not have the patience to watch it try? With that, he stood, dusted off his robes, and walked away, leaving the novice to stare at the boulder. The novice stayed there for a long time, thinking. He thought of the monk's words, of the seeds buried in the stone, of the patience it must take to tend to something that might never bloom. And as he thought, he began to see the boulder differently, not as a thing that resisted life, but as a thing that was simply moving at its own pace, in its own way. Weeks later, the novice woke early, before the bell called the monks to morning prayers. He couldn't sleep, his mind still turning over the monk's words. Quietly, he slipped out of his room and made his way to the courtyard. The moon was still up, a thin silver thread in the sky, and the air was cool, carrying the scent of jasmine. From the garden, he stopped short when he reached the boulder. There, in a tiny crack, a green shoot had pushed through. It was small, fragile, barely visible, just a single stem with two leaves curled like question marks. But it was there, alive, reaching toward the moon. The novice gasped, his hand flying to his mouth. He looked around, half expecting the monk to appear, but the courtyard was empty. So he knelt, just as the monk had done, and stared at the shoot. It was so small, so delicate, and yet, against the hard gray stone, it seemed like a miracle dot when the monk arrived the next morning. The novice was still there, sitting cross-legged. Beside the boulder, his eyes fixed on the shoot. The monk smiled, but said nothing. He knelt down, poured a little water into the crack, and gently brushed a fallen leaf from the shoot. "See?" he said after a moment. It was never about the flower. The novice looked up, confused. "But it's growing. You did it." The monk shook his head. "I did nothing. I simply provided what it needed: water, attention, time. The seed did the rest. It chose to grow, in its own time, in its own way." He paused, his gaze drifting to the mountains in the distance, where the sun was rising, painting the sky in strokes of orange and gold. Sometimes we think that growth is about forcing things to change, about making the stone into soil, about making the seed bloom before its time. But true growth, little one, is about patience. Not the kind of patience that waits with clenched fists, hoping for a result, but the kind that waits with open hands, trusting in what is. The novice thought of his own life, of the times he'd struggled to meditate, his mind racing like a wild horse, of the times he'd wanted to master a sutra overnight, growing frustrated when he stumbled over the words, of the times he'd looked at the other monks, thinking they were better, wiser, further along the path than he was. He'd been so focused on the end result, the flower, that he'd forgotten to tend to the seed. "Venerable one," he said, his voice thick, "are you not disappointed? It is just one small shoot. It may never flower." The monk laughed, a soft, warm sound like wind chimes. "Disappointed? Why would I be? The shoot is enough. The fact that it dared to push through the stone, that is the miracle. Whether it flowers or not is not up to me. It is up to the shoot, to the sun, to the rain, to the stone itself. My job is simply to witness. And so, the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The shoot grew taller, stronger. It developed more. Leaves small and bright, like green stars. The monk continued to tend to it, as did the novice, who now joined him every morning, bringing a cup of water and a quiet heart. The other monks, too, began to notice. They stopped whispering, stopped shaking their heads. Some even joined them, standing in silence beside the boulder, watching the plant grow. They began to see that the monk was not tending to a stone, but to something deeper, to the idea that even in the hardest, most unyielding places, there is life. That even when progress is slow, even when the path is unclear, there is beauty in the trying. Then, one autumn morning, it happened. The novice was the first to see it, a single bud, small and tight, tucked between the leaves. He called the monk, who came quickly, his steps lighter than usual. They stood together, watching, as the bud slowly unfurled, revealing 5 delicate petals, pale pink as dawn dot. It was not a grand flower, not like the peonies in the garden or the lotus on the pond. It was small, almost fragile, its petals slightly crumpled, as if it had fought to break free from the stone. But in its smallness, in its imperfection, it was more beautiful than any flower the novice had ever seen. The monk bent down and touched the petal with the tip of his finger, as if afraid it might vanish. Then he looked at the novice, his eyes shining. "See," he said, "it was never about the flower. It was about the tending." The novice nodded, but he was thinking of something else. He was thinking of how the flower, growing from the stone, had taught him more than any sutra, any lecture, any meditation. It had taught him that patience is not passivity. It is not giving up. It is showing up day after day, even when you can't see the fruit of your labor. It is trusting that growth happens, even when you're not watching. And it had taught him, too, about the difference between patience and obsession, between clinging to a result and embracing the process. The monk had not tended to the stone because he needed a flower to bloom. He had tended to it because tending was an act of love, of faith, of presence. He had not clung to the idea of a flower. He had simply been with the stone, with the seeds, with the possibility of what might be. That afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the temple in golden light, the monk sat beside the boulder, the flower now fully open, its scent faint but sweet. The novice sat beside him, and together they watched the light fade, listened to the crickets start their song, felt the air cool around them. No words were spoken. There was no need. Sometimes understanding is not in the talking, but in the being in the quiet, in the presence, in the recognition that life unfolds in its own time, in its own way, and that our job is not to control it, but to tend to it with an open heart and a patient mind. As the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, the monk stood, stretched, and smiled at the novice. "Shall we go in?" he said. "The bell will ring soon." The novice nodded, standing as well. But before he left, he looked back at the flower, at the stone, at the moon rising over the mountains. And in that moment, he knew that he would carry this lesson with him always, that growth is not about forcing, but about trusting. That patience is not about waiting for a result, but about being present in the process. That even in the hardest, most unyielding places, there is beauty, there is life, there is possibility. And as he walked back to the temple, the scent of the flower still in his nose, he felt a lightness in his chest, a peace in his heart that he had never felt before. For he understood at last that sometimes the most important blooms are not the ones we see, but the ones that grow within us, quietly, slowly, in the cracks of our own hard places. The scent of jasmine still lingered in the novice's robes as he followed the monk into the temple, but his mind was already turning to other things. He thought of the flower, of the stone, of the patience it had taken to bring them together. And as he thought, he realized that there was something else stirring within him, a hunger to learn more, to understand the quiet wisdom that seemed to flow from the monk like water from a spring. That hunger led him, several months later, to a small village at the foot of the mountain. He had been sent there by the abbot to collect supplies, rice, oil, a new scroll for the meditation hall. And as he walked through the narrow streets, his sandals clicking against the stone, he heard a voice calling to him. "Traveler, would you stop for a cup of tea?" He turned to see an old man sitting outside a small shop, a clay teapot steaming on a low table beside him. The man's hair was white as snow, tied back in a loose knot, and his face was lined with the kind of deep, gentle wrinkles that come from years of smiling. The shop behind him was filled with jars of tea green, black, oolong, their labels written in elegant calligraphy. The novice hesitated. He was in a hurry, but there was something about the man's smile, about the warmth of the tea steam curling into the air, that made him pause. "I am grateful for your kindness," he said, bowing slightly, "but I must return to the temple before evening." "Tea does not take long," the old man said, gesturing to a stool across from him. "And sometimes the things that seem to slow us down are the very things that help us arrive." The novice thought of the monk and the stone, of the flower that had taught him about patience, and he smiled. He sat down, folding his robes neatly around him, and watched as the old man picked up the teapot. "Tell me," the old man said, as he poured the tea into a small cup, its surface smooth as a mirror, "what brings you to our village, young one?" "I am a monk from the mountain temple," the novice said. "I have come to collect supplies." "Ah," the old man said, nodding. "Then you are a student of wisdom. Tell me, what have you learned in your studies?" The novice's chest swelled with pride. He had been studying hard, memorizing sutras, practicing meditation, and he was eager to share. "I have learned that suffering comes from desire," he said, reciting the words he had memorized. "That to end suffering, we must end desire. That the path to enlightenment is through discipline, through letting go of the self." He spoke for some time, his words tumbling out like water from a broken jar, about the Four Noble Truths, about the Eightfold Path, about the importance of non-attachment. The old man listened quietly, sipping his tea, his eyes never leaving the novice's face. When the novice finally fell silent, feeling a little breathless, the old man smiled. "You speak well," he said, "but let me ask you this, have you ever tried to pour tea into a cup that is already full?" The novice frowned. "That is not possible. The tea would overflow." "Exactly," the old man said. He picked up the novice's cup, which was still full, and began to pour more tea into it. The hot liquid spilled over the edges, onto the table, onto the novice's hand. "Sir," the novice said, pulling his hand back, surprised. "The cup is full." "Ah," the old man said, setting down the teapot. "So it is. And yet you came to me, asking to learn with your cup already full of your own knowledge, your own ideas. How can I teach you anything when there is no room for it to enter?" The novice stared at him, his mouth slightly open. He felt a flush rise to his cheeks, not of anger, but of embarrassment. He had been so eager to show what he knew that he had not even thought to listen, to learn from the old man who sat before him, his hands calloused from years of handling tea leaves, his eyes filled with a quiet, unassuming wisdom. I'm sorry," he said, bowing his head. "I spoke out of arrogance." The old man waved his hand dismissively. "Arrogance is simply a cup that has forgotten it can be emptied. Let us try again." He poured out the tea from the novice's cup, emptied it completely, then refilled it, the liquid golden and fragrant. "Now," he said, pushing the cup toward the novice, "drink and listen." The novice picked up the cup, its warmth seeping into his palms, and took a sip. The tea was bitter at first, then sweet, then something else, a depth of flavor that made him think of mountains and mist, of rain on leaves, of quiet mornings in the temple garden. "Good tea," he said, smiling. "Good tea comes from good leaves," the old man said, "but also from a good brewer. A brewer who knows when to heat the water, when to steep the leaves, when to pour. A brewer who does not force the tea to be something it is not, but lets it reveal itself." He paused, picking up a handful of tea leaves from a nearby jar and letting them fall through his fingers like green rain. It is the same with wisdom. It is not about filling yourself with knowledge, with rules, with ideas. It is about emptying yourself so that wisdom can enter, like tea into an empty cup. It is about being open, about listening, about letting go of what you think you know so that you can learn what is true. The novice thought of the monk, of how he had tended to the stone without expectation, without forcing, and he nodded slowly. "So discipline is not about filling the cup," he said, "but about emptying it. Discipline is about knowing when to fill and when to empty," the old man said. "A warrior trains not to be full of strength, but to be able to use strength wisely. A musician practices not to fill their mind with notes, but to let the music flow through them. A monk meditates not to fill their heart with thoughts, but to empty it so that peace can take their place." He poured himself another cup of tea, his movements slow and deliberate, as if each gesture were a prayer. "You speak of letting go of the self," he said. "But how can you let go of something if you are too full of ideas about what it is? To let go, you must first see clearly. And to see clearly, you must empty the cup." The novice thought of his own mind, how it was often filled with thoughts, worries about his progress, comparisons to other monks, plans for the future. He thought of how those thoughts clouded his meditation, how they kept him from truly being present, from seeing the world as it was, not as he thought it should be. "I think I understand," he said, his voice soft. "My cup has been full for a long time. I have been so busy adding to it that I have not thought to empty it." The old man smiled. "Emptying is not easy. It requires trust. Trust that there is more to be gained by letting go than by holding on. Trust that the universe is not empty, but full of possibility, and that you are a part of that possibility." He looked up at the sky, where the sun was beginning to dip toward the western mountains, painting the clouds in shades of pink and purple. "It is time for you to go," he said. "The temple waits." The novice stood, bowing deeply. "Thank you," he said. "Your tea has taught me more than any sutra." The old man waved him away. "Go, and remember, even the fullest cup must be emptied before it can be refilled. Even the wisest mind must be open to learn." As the novice walked back up the mountain, his supplies tucked neatly into his bag, he thought about the old man's words. He thought about the cup, about how easily it had overflowed when he had tried to add more tea, about how much clearer the tea had tasted when the cup was empty. He thought, too, about the monk and the stone. The monk had not filled the stone with expectations, with ideas of what it should be. He had simply been with it, empty of desire, full of presence. And in that emptiness, in that presence, something beautiful had grown. When he returned to the temple, the sun was setting, painting the golden roofs of the buildings in a warm, soft light. The monk was standing in the courtyard, as he often was, looking up at the stars that were beginning to appear. "Welcome back," the monk said, turning to smile at him. "Did you find everything you needed?" "I did," the novice said. "But I also found something I did not know I was looking for." He told the monk about the old man, about the tea, about the cup that had been too full. As he spoke, he watched the monk's face, expecting him to nod, to offer words of wisdom, but the monk simply listened, his eyes soft and full of understanding. When the novice finished, the monk picked up a small stone from the ground and held. it out to him. "What do you see?" he asked. The novice looked at the stone. It was ordinary gray, smooth, a little chipped at the edges. "I see a stone," he said. The monk nodded. "And if I told you that this stone was once part of a mountain, that it was shaped by rivers and wind, that it has seen 1,000 winters and 1,000 springs? Then I would see more," the novice said. "Ah," the monk said, smiling. "But the stone has not changed. What has changed is your cup. You have emptied it, just a little, and in that emptiness, you have made room for wonder." He placed the stone in the novice's hand, closing his fingers around it. Wisdom is like that stone. It is all around us, in the tea, in the stone, in the flower that grows from a crack. But we cannot see it if our cups are full of our own ideas, our own expectations. We must empty ourselves again and again to make room for it. The novice closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the stone in his hand, the warmth of the monk's fingers around his own. He thought of the old man, of the tea, of the cup that had taught him so much. He thought of how easy it was to fill the cup with knowledge, with pride, with plans, and how hard it was to empty it, to let go, to trust that there was more to come. But he also thought of the flower, pushing through the stone, and he knew that it was worth it, that the emptiness was not a void, but a space where growth could happen, where wisdom could enter, where the true self, unburdened by desire and expectation, could shine through. That night, as he sat in meditation, the stone from the monk still in his hand, he tried to empty his cup. He let his thoughts come, then watched them go, like leaves floating down a river. He did not cling to them, did not push them away. He simply let them be, and in doing so, he felt a lightness he had never felt before, a sense of peace that was not the result of effort, but of letting go. When he opened his eyes, the moon was high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the courtyard. The flower on the stone was still there, its petals now slightly faded, but still beautiful in its imperfection. And as he looked at it, he understood that the path to wisdom was not about filling himself with answers, but about emptying himself, to ask the right questions. Not about being full, but about being open. In the days that followed, the novice began to practice emptiness. He listened more than he spoke. He observed more than he judged. He let go of the need to be right, to be wise, to be further along the path. He simply was, in each moment, as present as the monk had been with the stone, as the old man had been with the tea, and slowly, imperceptibly, something began to change. His meditation deepened. His heart felt lighter. He began to see the world, not as a collection of things to be understood, but as a mystery to be cherished. He began to see himself not as a student trying to fill a cup, but as a cup waiting to be filled. One afternoon, several years later, a young traveler came to the temple. He was eager, bright-eyed, full of questions about the path to enlightenment. The novice, now a monk himself, his hair beginning to gray at the temples, invited him to sit in the courtyard to share a cup of tea. As he poured the tea, he noticed that the traveler's cup was already full, not with tea, but with words, with ideas, with the certainty of youth. And so, gently, he poured more tea into the cup, watching as it overflowed onto the table. The traveler jumped, surprised. "But the cup is full," he said. The monk smiled, just as the old man in the village had smiled. "So it is," he said. "And yet you have come to learn, with your cup already full. Tell me, how can wisdom enter if there is no room for it?" The traveler stared at him for a moment, then laughed, a sound like wind through bamboo. "I see," he said. "You are trying to teach me something." "I am trying to offer you tea," the monk said, emptying the traveler's cup and refilling it. "The rest is up to you." As they sat together, sipping their tea, watching the sun set over the mountains, the monk thought of the old man, of the monk who had taught him about patience, of the flower that had grown from a stone. He thought of how the cup, once empty, could be filled again and again, how wisdom was not a destination, but a journey, one that required him to empty himself again and again, to make room for the new, the unexpected, the beautiful dot. And in that thought, he found a kind of peace, a peace that comes not from knowing all the answers, but from being willing to ask the questions, from being open to the possibility that there is always more to learn, more to see, more to love. That peace, he knew, was the true tea, the one that never runs out, the one that fills the cup not with knowledge, but with wonder, the one that reminds us in every sip that the most important thing we can bring to the world is an open heart, an empty cup, and the courage to let life pour in. The tea had long since gone cold, but the traveler lingered, his questions softening into a quiet curiosity as the monk spoke of emptiness and wonder. Outside, the sky had darkened, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the ancient banyan tree that stood at the center of the courtyard. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang, its tone deep and resonant, marking the hour of evening meditation. "Shall we?" the monk said, standing. The traveler nodded, and together they walked toward the meditation hall, their sandals making soft sounds on the stone path. As they entered, the other monks were already seated, their backs straight, their eyes closed, their breath slow and steady. The air smelled of incense, a sweet, earthy scent that seemed to wrap around them like a blanket. The monk and the traveler found their places, sitting cross-legged on small cushions, facing the wall. For a long while, there was silence, broken only by the sound of breathing, by the rustle of robes, by the distant hoot of an owl. The monk let his thoughts drift, as he had learned to do, watching them come, then go, like clouds passing across. The sky. He thought of the traveler, of the tea, of the old man in the village, and he smiled, a small, secret smile that touched his lips without disturbing his peace. Then, without warning, the wind picked up. It howled outside the hall, rattling the windows, sending leaves skittering across the courtyard. A moment later, the rain came hard, fast, drumming against the roof like 1,000 tiny hands. The traveler shifted, his eyes opening slightly, his brow furrowing. The monk could feel his restlessness, like a small storm in the quiet room. After a while, the abbot, a tall, thin man with a face like carved wood, stood and walked to the front of the hall. He looked at the monks, his eyes calm, his voice steady, even as the rain roared outside. "Tonight," he said, "we will meditate not within these walls, but beneath the banyan tree. Let us go." A murmur of surprise ran through the room. The rain was still pouring, heavy and unrelenting, but no one questioned the abbot. They simply stood, gathered their cushions, and followed him outside. The monk smiled to himself. He knew the abbot well knew that he did nothing without purpose, that even this seeming madness of meditating in a downpour, was a lesson. In disguise, they took their places beneath the banyan tree, its branches spreading wide, offering some shelter from the rain, but not much. Within moments, the monks were soaked through, their robes clinging to their bodies, their hair plastered to their scalps. The traveler, shivering, looked around, his eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. The abbot stood in the center of the circle, his robes dripping, but his posture as upright as ever. "Breathe," he said, his voice cutting through the rain. "Feel the rain on your skin. Listen to its sound. Do not resist it. Do not wish it away. Simply be with it." And so they sat in the pouring rain, their eyes closed, their breaths mixing with the sound of the water hitting the ground. The monk let the rain soak into him, cool, refreshing, alive. He felt it run down his face, drip from his chin, seep into his sandals. He listened to it pattering on the leaves, gurgling in the gutters, splashing against the stone walls of the temple. He smelled it, the earthy scent of wet soil, the sharp, clean scent of rain-washed air. Beside him, the traveler sat rigid. The monk could feel his tension, his struggle against the cold, the wet, the discomfort. He could almost hear his thoughts. When will this end? Why are we doing this? This is pointless, painful. After what seemed like hours, but was likely only a quarter of one, the abbot spoke again. "Tell me," he said, "what do you feel?" A young monk, his teeth chattering, answered first. "I feel cold, revered one, wet, uncomfortable." The abbot nodded. "And what do you wish for?" "For the rain to stop, for warmth, for dry clothes." The abbot turned to another monk. "And you?" "I feel the rain," the second monk said. "It is not pleasant, but it is not unpleasant. It is simply rain." The abbot smiled. "And you?" he said, looking at the traveler. The traveler opened his eyes, his face tight. "I feel angry," he said. "This is unnecessary. We are getting sick for no reason. It is foolish." The abbot nodded, as if this were the most reasonable answer in the world. "Foolish," he said. "And yet, the rain falls anyway. The tree stands in it, the earth drinks it, the river carries it away. Do they call it foolish? Do they resist it?" The traveler opened his mouth to answer, then closed it, frowning. The abbot continued. "The rain does not care whether we are comfortable or not. It does not care whether we approve of it or not. It simply is part of the cycle of the sky and the earth, part of the dance of water and air. To resist it is to struggle against the universe itself. And what does that struggle gain us? Only more suffering." He paused, letting the words hang in the air, mixing with the rain. "You sit here, cold and wet, and you think this should not be. But should is a word that belongs to humans, not to the rain. The rain does not should. It simply is. And in its isness, there is wisdom." The monk thought of the flower on the stone, of how it had not resisted the stone, but had found a way to grow in spite of it. He thought of the old man and the tea, of how the tea had not resisted the water, but had let itself steep, releasing its flavor, its essence. He thought of his own journey, of how he had struggled to empty his cup, to let go of his expectations, and how much peace had come when he had finally stopped resisting. The rain, the abbot said, teaches us to let go, to accept what is, not because we are weak, but because we are wise enough to see that some things are beyond our control. To fight against them is to waste our energy, to drain ourselves of the strength we need for the things that are within our control. He looked up at the banyan tree, its leaves glistening in the rain, its roots digging deep into the earth. "This tree has stood here for 100 years, he said. "It has weathered storms far worse than this. It does not bend because it is weak. It bends because it is strong enough to know that resistance would break it. It yields to the wind, to the rain, and in yielding, it survives." The traveler, still shivering, but his expression softening, nodded slowly. "So we are to be like the tree," he said. "We are to yield. We are to be like ourselves," the abbot said. "But yes, to yield when yielding is wise. To accept what we cannot change, and to focus our energy on what we can. The rain will stop, eventually. The sun will come out, and we will dry. But until then, we can choose to be miserable, or we can choose to be present." He smiled, a small, gentle smile. And being present, even in the rain, is a kind of joy. With that, the abbot closed his eyes, and the hall fell silent again. The rain continued to pour, but something had shifted. The monk could feel it in the way the other monks breathed, more deeply, more easily. In the way the traveler's posture relaxed, his shoulders dropping, his breath slowing. In the way, the rain itself seemed to soften, its sound less like a roar, more like a lullaby. He let himself sink deeper into the moment, the feel of the rain on his skin, the sound of it in his ears, the scent of it in his nose. He thought of nothing, desired nothing, simply was. And in that being, he found a kind of peace he had never known, a peace that did not depend on the weather, on his circumstances, on anything outside of himself. It was a peace that came from within, from the quiet acceptance of what is. A while, the rain began to slow. The drumming on the roof softened, the gurgling in the gutters quieted. A moment later, it stopped altogether. The clouds parted, just slightly, and a shaft of moonlight broke through, illuminating the courtyard, turning the wet stones into a mosaic of silver and black. The abbot opened his eyes. "Shall we return?" he said. The monks stood, their movements slower now, more deliberate. The traveler, though still wet, had a small smile on his face. "I think," he said, as they walked back to the meditation hall, "that I understand." The monk nodded. "Understanding," he said, "is the first step. But the rain will come again, and then we must remember." The traveler smiled. "I think I will remember," he said. "I think I will always remember what it felt like to be in the rain and not mind." The monk laughed, a soft, warm sound. "That," he said, "is wisdom." In the days that followed, the traveler stayed at the temple. He helped with the chores, gathering firewood, tending to the garden, fetching water from the well. He joined the monks in their meditation, in their meals, in their walks through the mountains. And though he asked fewer questions, his eyes seemed to hold more understanding, as if each moment, each task, each breath was teaching him something. One morning, as they walked through the garden, the monk pointed to a patch of mushrooms that had sprouted overnight, their caps white and round, pushing up through the soil. "See," he said, "the rain brought these. Without it, they would not have grown." The traveler nodded. "And without the rain, we would not have learned to let go." "Exactly," the monk said. "The rain is not an enemy. It is a teacher, a reminder. It shows us that life is full of things we cannot control, and that our happiness depends not on controlling them, but on how we respond to them." He picked a mushroom, examining it closely, then put it back. "Some days are sunny," he said. "Some days are rainy. Some days are easy. Some days are hard. But every day is a gift, a chance to learn, to grow, to be present." The traveler looked out at the mountains, their peaks now clear, their slopes green and vibrant after the rain. "I think I have been fighting the rain my whole life," he said, "resisting the things I didn't like, clinging to the things I did. It has been exhausting." "It is exhausting," the monk said, "but it is never too late to stop, to let go, to accept what is, and to find peace in it." They walked on in silence through the garden, past the flower that still grew on the stone, its petals now bright and fresh after the rain. The monk thought of how far he had come from the eager, arrogant novice to the quiet, peaceful monk he was now. He thought of the lessons he had learned, from the stone, from the tea, from the rain, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the stone, which had taught him patience. Gratitude for the tea, which had taught him openness. Gratitude for the rain, which had taught him acceptance. And gratitude for the journey itself, the long, winding path that had led him here, to this moment, this place, this peace. As they reached the end of the garden, the traveler turned to him, his eyes shining. "I think I am ready to leave," he said. "Not because I have all the answers, but because I have learned to live with the questions." The monk smiled. "That is the beginning of wisdom," he said. The traveler bowed deeply. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for the tea, for the rain, for the lesson." The monk bowed in return. The lesson was always there, he said. You simply needed to be ready to learn it. With that, the traveler turned and walked down the mountain, his steps light, his posture upright, his head held high. The monk watched him go until he disappeared around a bend, and then he turned back to the garden, to the stone, to the flower, to the quiet beauty of the moment. The sun was high in the sky now, warming the wet stones, drying the monk's robes, casting a golden light over everything. A butterfly, its wings still damp from the rain, fluttered past, landing on a flower. The monk watched it, its wings slowly opening, closing, as if testing their strength, and taking flight again. Dancing on the breeze, he thought of the traveler, of the lessons he had learned, of the journey that lay ahead of him. He thought of his own journey, of how far he had come, and how much more there was to learn. He thought of the rain, of the way it had cleansed the temple, the garden, the mountain. And he knew that life, too, had its rains, its storms, its challenges, its moments of discomfort. But he also knew that those rains were necessary, that they cleansed, that they nourished, that they taught, that without them, the flowers would not grow, the mushrooms would not sprout, the soul would not deep in dot. And so he resolved to welcome the rain whenever it came, to let it soak into him, to listen to its lessons, to trust that even in the wet, the cold, the discomfort, there was beauty, there was growth, there was peace. He walked back to the temple, his steps slow, his heart light. The bell rang, calling the monks to midday meal, and he smiled, quickening his pace. There would be rice and vegetables, and tea warm, comforting, nourishing. And there would be the company of the other monks, their laughter, their stories, their shared journey. Life, he thought, as he entered the dining hall, is like the rain. It is not always what we want, but it is always what we need. And in learning to accept it, to be present with it, to find joy in it, even when it is wet, even when it is cold, even when it is hard, we find the peace we have been searching for all along. The dining hall was filled with the warm, savory scent of miso soup and steamed rice. Monks sat cross-legged on tatami mats, their bowls held gently in their hands, their movements slow and deliberate as they ate. There was no talking, just the soft clink of chopsticks against bowls, the murmur of breath, the distant chirp of a bird outside. It was a ritual, this meal, a reminder to be present, to savor each bite, to gratitude for the nourishment that sustained them. The monk sat beside the abbot, his bowl nearly empty. He thought of the traveler, of the way he had walked down the mountain with such lightness, such purpose, and he smiled. It was a good thing, he thought, to send people out into the world, carrying with them the lessons of the temple lessons, of patience, of openness, of acceptance. But it was also good to receive, to welcome those who came seeking, to share the quiet wisdom that had been passed down through generations. After the meal, the monks cleared their bowls, wiping them clean with small cloths, then stacked them neatly in a corner. The abbot stood, his hands clasped in front of him, and spoke. Tomorrow, he said, 2 travelers will arrive. They are brothers, I am told, on a journey to find enlightenment. They have heard of our temple, of the wisdom that resides here, and they wish to learn. I ask that you receive them with kindness, with openness, with the same spirit of hospitality that has guided us for centuries. The monks nodded, their heads bowing slightly in agreement. The monk felt a flutter of curiosity. Brothers on a journey together. What would they be like? What would they seek? What could the temple teach them? The next day dawned bright and clear, the sky a deep, brilliant blue. The monk was in the garden, tending to the flower that still grew on the stone, its petals. Now a rich, vibrant pink, when he heard the sound of footsteps on the path. He looked up to see 2 men approaching, their robes dusty from travel, their faces marked by the weariness of long days on the road. They were indeed brothers, He could tell tall, with the same broad shoulders, the same sharp jawline, the same dark eyes. But there was a difference, too. One walked with a kind of restlessness, his head turning this way, and that, as if he were afraid he might miss something. The other moved more slowly, his gaze steady, his steps deliberate, as if each one were a prayer. "Venerable one," the restless brother said, bowing deeply as they reached the garden. "We are honored to be here. I am Kato. This is my brother." Ren bowed, his eyes closing briefly as he did so. "We have traveled far," he said, his voice soft, "seeking wisdom. We have heard that this temple is a place of great learning, and we hope to stay for a time, to study, to practice, to grow." The monk smiled. "You are welcome here," he said. "The abbot has told us of your coming. Let me show you to your quarters. You may rest, refresh yourselves, and then we will speak." He led them through the courtyard, past the banyan tree where they had meditated in the rain, past the well where water still glistened in the sunlight, past the stone where the flower grew. Cato's eyes darted from one thing to the next, his mouth opening as if he wanted to ask 100 questions at once. Ren, though, walked quietly, his gaze lingering on the flower, on the tree, on the stone, as if he were trying to absorb their essence, their story. That evening, after they had rested and eaten, the brothers joined the monk in the meditation hall. The abbot was there too, sitting cross-legged on a raised platform at the front of the room, his eyes closed, his hands resting gently on his knees. The air smelled of sandalwood, and a single candle flickered on a small table, casting warm, golden light over everything. "Tell me," the abbot said, opening his eyes, "what brings you here?" Cato leaned forward, his eyes bright. "We seek enlightenment, revered one. We have heard that it is possible to transcend suffering, to find peace, to understand the true nature of reality. We want to learn how." The abbot nodded. "And what do you think enlightenment is?" Kaito opened his mouth, then paused, as if he hadn't expected the question. "Enlightenment is wisdom," he said. "It is understanding. It is freedom from desire, from attachment, from suffering." "And you?" The abbot said, looking at Ren thought for a moment, his gaze steady. "Enlightenment is being present," he said. "It is seeing the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is finding peace in each moment, no matter what that moment brings." The abbot smiled. "Interesting," he said. "Tomorrow, you will begin your journey. But first, there is a task for you. There is a village to the east and a village to the west. Each is in need of help. The east village to repair a bridge that was damaged in the storm, the west village to harvest their rice before the rains come again. I ask that you go to these villages to help as you can. Kato, you may choose which village to visit. Ren, you will go to the other." Kato's eyes widened. "Choose?" he said. "But which one is better? Which one will teach us more?" "Which one is the right choice?" The abbot's smile deepened. "That is for you to discover," he said. "But remember, there is no right choice. There is only the choice you make and how you walk with it." With that, the abbot closed his eyes, and the conversation ended. The brothers stood, bowing deeply, and followed the monk out of the hall. Kato was already talking, his voice filled with excitement and uncertainty. "Which village should I choose?" he said, turning to Ren. "The east or the west? What if I choose wrong? What if I miss out on something important?" Ren placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, his touch gentle. "It does not matter," he said. "Whatever choice you make, I will see you when we return, and we will share what we have learned." Kato nodded, but his brow remained furrowed. "I will think on it," he said. That night, the monk sat on the porch of his small quarters, watching the stars. He thought of Cato, of his restlessness, his need to choose the right path. He thought of Ren, of his calm, his trust that whatever path he took would be the right one. And he smiled, remembering his own journey, the way he had once struggled with such choices, the way he had. Learned that the path is not in the choosing, but in the walking. The next morning, Cato was still undecided. He paced back and forth in the courtyard, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes darting from east to west. Ren stood quietly, watching him, a small smile on his face. "I think I will go east," Cato said finally, as if the words were being pulled from him. "The bridge repairing, it seems like a noble task. It will require strength, skill, discipline. That must be the path to enlightenment." Ren nodded. "Then I will go west," he said. "Harvesting rice is a simple task, but it is necessary. And perhaps there is wisdom in simplicity." They said their goodbyes, embracing briefly, then set off in their respective directions. Cato walked quickly, his steps urgent, as if he were afraid he might change his mind. Ren walked slowly, his gaze steady, his steps deliberate, as if he were savoring each moment of the journey. The monk watched them go, then turned back to the temple. He knew that their journeys would be different, but that both would hold lessons. For wisdom, he thought, is not found in one path or another, but in the way we walk, no matter where we are. A week later, the brothers returned. Cato arrived first, his robes dirty, his hands calloused, but his eyes shining. He found the monk in the garden, sitting beside the stone, watching the flower. "Venerable one," he said, bowing deeply. It was incredible. The bridge repairing. It was hard work. We had to carry heavy stones, to hammer nails into wood, to work together, even when we grew tired, even when we disagreed. But when we finished, when we stood back and saw people crossing safely, smiling, thanking us, it was like a light had been turned on. I felt a sense of purpose, of connection, that I have never felt before. This is enlightenment, I think. This is what it means to be useful, to contribute, to be part of something larger than ourselves. The monk smiled. "That is a good lesson," he said. "But tell me, did you enjoy the work? Or were you too focused on the end result, on the enlightenment you hope to find?" Cato paused, frowning. I wanted to enjoy it," he said. "But I kept thinking, is this it? Is this the wisdom I seek? Am I doing it right?" I was so busy worrying about whether I was on the right path that I forgot to be present, to savor the work itself. The monk nodded. "That is the challenge," he said. "To walk the path without constantly questioning whether it is the right one." Just then, Ren arrived. He, too, was dirty, his hands stained with dirt from the rice fields, but his face was calm, his eyes soft. "Hello, brother," he said, smiling at Cato. "Hello, venerable one." "Tell us of your journey," the monk said. Ren sat down beside them, crossing his legs. "The rice harvest was simple work," he said. "Bending, cutting, tying, carrying. It was repetitive, tiring. But there was a rhythm to it, to the way the sun rose and set, to the way the wind rustled the leaves, to the way we worked together, wordlessly, each knowing our place, our task. I did not think of enlightenment, of wisdom, of anything beyond the moment. I simply cut the rice, tied it, carried it, and in that simplicity, I found peace, a kind of peace that I have never known before." He looked at Cato, his eyes gentle. "I think you are right," he said. "Enlightenment is about being part of something larger than ourselves. But it is also about being present, about savoring each moment, no matter how small, how ordinary." Cato looked down, his cheeks flushing. "I think I was so busy looking for enlightenment that I missed it," he said. "It was right there, in the work, in the people, in the moment. But I was too busy worrying about whether I was doing it right. The monk laughed, a soft, warm sound. That is the nature of the journey, he said. We spend so much time looking for the destination that we forget to enjoy the path. But the path is the destination. Each step, each moment, each breath is where enlightenment lies. He stood, brushing off his robes. Come, he said, the abbot will want to hear of your journeys. And then, perhaps, you will understand that the choice between east and west was never a choice at all. It was simply two different paths to the same truth. They walked back to the temple, Kaido and Ren side by side, their voices now calm, their steps in sync. The monk followed behind, smiling. He thought of how different they were, Kaido. Always seeking, always questioning. Ren, always present, always accepting. But in their differences, he saw a kind of balance, a reminder that there are many ways to walk the path, many ways to find peace. That evening, as they sat in the meditation hall with the other monks, the abbot asked them to share their experiences. Kaido spoke first, his voice honest, his words filled with the wisdom of someone who has learned a hard lesson. I thought that enlightenment was something to be achieved, something to be earned through hard work, through discipline, he said. But I learned that it is not about achieving, but about being. Not about doing, but about being present in the doing. Ren nodded. I thought that enlightenment was about finding peace in simplicity, he said, and it is. But it is also about connection, about being part of something larger than ourselves. It is both and neither. It is simply being. The abbot smiled. You have both learned well, he said. Enlightenment is not a destination. It is not a prize to be won, a goal to be achieved. It is a way of being in each moment, with each breath, in each choice we make. It is seeing that the path east and the path west are not different paths at all, but simply different expressions of the same journey. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the monks, over Kaito and Ren. Life is full of choices, this path or that, this job or that, this person or that. We spend so much time worrying about making the right choice, about avoiding the wrong one, that we forget that the choice itself is not what matters. What matters is how we walk with it, with presence, with gratitude, with an open heart. The monk closed his eyes, letting the abbot's words wash over him. He thought of his own choices, the choice to become a monk, the choice to tend to, the stone, the choice to listen to the old man, to sit in the rain. None of them had been right or wrong. They had simply been choices, and he had walked with them, as best he could, in each moment. When he opened his eyes, the candle was still flickering, casting its warm light over the room. Kaito and Ren sat side by side, their faces calm, their eyes shining with understanding. The monk smiled. They would be okay, he thought. They would continue their journey, and they would learn, as he had learned, that the path is not in the choosing, but in the walking dot in the days that followed. Kaito and Ren stayed at the temple, helping with the chores, meditating, listening to the abbot's teachings. Kaido learned to slow down, to be present, to savor each moment without worrying about the next. Ren learned to embrace the questions, to seek, to wonder, without losing his sense of peace. And in their growth, in their balance, the monk saw a reflection of his own journey, a reminder that wisdom is not found in one way of being, but in the harmony of many. One morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Kaido and Ren came to the monk. They were packing their bags, their faces filled with a quiet determination. We are ready to leave, Kaito said. We have learned much here, but there is more to see, more to learn, more to experience. The path calls. Ren nodded. But we will remember, he said. We will remember that the path is not in the choosing, but in the walking. That enlightenment is not a destination, but a way of being. that each moment is a gift, to be cherished, to be lived fully. The monk smiled. "Go then," he said, "and walk your path with courage, with curiosity, with an open heart. And remember, no matter which way you turn, no matter what choices you make, you are always on the right path, as long as you walk it with presence, with gratitude, with love." They bowed deeply, then turned and walked down the mountain, their steps now in sync, their hearts light, their minds open. The monk watched them go until they disappeared around a bend, and then he turned back to the temple, to the garden, to the stone, to the flower that still grew, vibrant and alive in the morning sun. He thought of the brothers, of their journey, of the lessons they had learned. And he thought of his own journey, of the many paths he had walked, the many choices he had made, the many lessons he had learned along the way. He knew that the journey would never end, that there would always be new paths to walk, new choices to make, new lessons to learn. But that was okay, because the journey itself was the point, the walking, the being, the living, in each moment, with each breath, with an open heart and a curious mind. The bell rang, calling the monks to morning meditation. The monk smiled and walked toward the hall, his steps slow, deliberate, present. The path, he knew, was right here, right now. And that was more than enough. The bell's echo lingered in the air as the monk stepped into the meditation hall. Sunlight filtered through the paper screens, casting soft rectangles of light on the tatami mats. The other monks were already seated, their backs straight, their breaths steady. He found his usual spot near the back, folded his robes neatly beneath him, and closed his eyes. Today, his mind felt unusually quiet. No thoughts of the brothers, no memories of the rain or the stone or the tea. Just a gentle awareness of his breath inhale, filling his lungs with cool air. Exhale, releasing it slowly, like a sigh. It was a rare moment of stillness, and he savored it, letting himself sink deeper into the silence. When the meditation ended, the abbot stood, as always, to offer a few words. But today, instead of speaking, he held up a small, tarnished bronze mirror, its surface dull and covered in a film of dust and grime. The monks leaned forward slightly, curious. "This mirror," the abbot said, his voice soft but clear, once belonged to a great master. It was said that he could see not just his reflection in it, but his true self, the self beneath the thoughts, the emotions, the stories we tell ourselves. He ran a finger over the mirror's surface, leaving a faint streak in the grime. But over time, it was forgotten. It sat in a corner, gathering dust, until its surface became like this dull, clouded, unable to reflect anything clearly. He looked around at the monks, his eyes calm. Our minds are like this mirror. When we are born, they are clear, bright, able to reflect the world as it is. But over time, they gather dust thoughts, worries, desires, regrets. The dust builds, up layer upon layer, until we can no longer see clearly. We see only the dust, not the mirror itself, not the world as it truly is. The monk nodded slowly, thinking of his own mind, how it had once been cluttered with doubts, with arrogance, with the need to prove himself, how it had taken years of practice, of patience, of letting go, to begin to wipe away some of that dust. "The question is," the abbot said, setting the mirror down on a small table, "how do we clean the mirror? How do we wipe away the dust? To see clearly again?" A young monk raised his hand. "By meditating, revered one. By quieting the mind, by letting go of thoughts." "Indeed," the abbot said, "but meditation is not the only way. There are many ways to wipe the mirror. What matters is not the method, but the intention, the willingness to see, to let go, to be honest with ourselves." He picked up the mirror again and handed it to the monk sitting nearest to him. "Take this," he said, "and each day spend a little time cleaning it. Not with anger, not with urgency, but with patience, with care. See what happens." The monk, an older man with a face like weathered wood, took the mirror, his hands gentle, as if it were a sacred object. "I will do as you say, revered one," he said. Over the next few weeks, the monk carried the mirror with him everywhere. He kept it in a small pouch tied to his waist, taking it out each evening after the day's work was done. He would sit on the porch of his quarters, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the mountains, and begin to clean it. At first, he used a soft cloth, wiping gently at the grime. But the dust was stubborn, clinging to the surface, and the mirror remained dull. He frowned, his frustration growing. "Why won't you shine?" he muttered, his voice tight. But then he remembered the abbot's words, "Not with anger, not with urgency, but with patience, with care." He took a deep breath, let go of his frustration, and tried again. This time, he dipped the cloth in warm water, wrung it out, and wiped the mirror slowly, methodically, as if he were caressing a lover's face. Day by day, the mirror began to change. A small spot here, a faint glimmer there. Gradually, the grime lifted, revealing the bright, smooth surface beneath. The monk smiled as he worked, feeling a sense of connection to the great master who had once held this mirror, to the abbot who had given it to him, to himself. One evening, as he sat cleaning the mirror, the young novice who had once watched him tend to the stone approached. The novice was older now, his face more angular, his eyes wiser, but there was still a spark of curiosity in his gaze. "What are you doing?" he asked, sitting down beside the monk. "Cleaning this mirror," the monk said, holding it up to catch the last light of the sun. A small patch of the surface was now clear, reflecting the sky a deep, brilliant blue. "Why?" the novice said. "It is just a mirror, an old, tarnished thing." The monk smiled. "It is more than a mirror. It is a lesson. The abbot says that our minds are like this mirror clouded by dust, by thoughts, by desires. To see clearly, we must clean them." He ran the cloth over the clear patch, then over a still tarnished part. "See, this part is clean, and it reflects the sky perfectly. This part is still dirty, and it reflects nothing but its own grime. It is the same with our minds. When they are clean, we see the world as it is. When they are dirty, we see only our own thoughts, our own biases, our own fears." The novice nodded, his eyes wide. "So cleaning the mirror is like meditating? Like letting go of thoughts? Like practicing letting go," the monk said. "Meditation is one way, but there are others. Washing dishes can be a way to clean the mirror, if we do it with presence, with awareness. Walking can be a way if we pay attention to each step. Even breathing, simply noticing the breath, without judgment, can be a way." He paused, looking at the mirror. "The dust never really goes away, you know. No matter how much we clean, it will always come back. That is the nature of things. Thoughts will arise, desires will stir, fears will whisper. But if we practice cleaning, if we learn to wipe away the dust as it comes, we can see clearly, even if only for a moment." The novice picked up a corner of the cloth, touching it gently to the mirror's surface. "It takes patience," he said. "It takes everything," the monk said. "Patience, yes, but also kindness too. Ourselves when the dust returns, when we forget to clean, when we get distracted. And trust that the mirror is still there, beneath the dust, waiting to be seen." Over the next few months, the novice joined the monk each evening, helping to clean the mirror. They worked in silence, their hands moving in gentle, rhythmic motions, their breaths in sync. Sometimes they would talk about the day's events, about the lessons they were learning, about the way the light changed as the sun set. But mostly, they just worked, together, in the quiet, the mirror slowly, gradually, becoming brighter. One evening, as the moon rose over the mountains, casting a silver glow over the courtyard, the monk held up the mirror. A large portion of it was now clear, reflecting the moon perfectly, a round, bright circle, just like the real thing. "Look," he said, handing the mirror to the novice. The novice took it, his breath catching. He looked at his reflection, faint, but there, and beyond it, the moon, sharp and clear. "It is beautiful," he said, his voice soft. "Not as beautiful as what it reflects," the monk said. The novice nodded. "But without the mirror, I would not see it so clearly. I would see the moon in the sky, but this is like seeing its essence." "Ah," the monk said, smiling. "You understand. The mirror does not create the moon. It simply reflects it. In the same way, our minds do not create the world. They simply reflect it. When they are clean, we see the world's essence, the beauty, the joy, the peace that is always there beneath the surface." The novice looked at his reflection again, frowning slightly. "But I see myself too. Is that part of the reflection?" "Of course," the monk said. "You are part of the world after all. But when the mirror is clean, you see yourself clearly, not as you wish to be, not as others see you, but as you are, in this moment, perfect and imperfect, just like the moon, just like the world." The novice thought of this for a long while, turning the mirror this way and that, watching the moon shift, his reflection shift with it. "It is easy to clean the mirror when things are calm," he said finally. "But what when life is busy? When there is suffering? When the dust comes faster than we can wipe it away?" The monk took the mirror from him, wiping it gently with the cloth. "That is when it is most important to remember the mirror," he said. "When life is chaotic, when the dust is thick, that is when we need to pause, to breathe, to wipe, even if it is just for a moment, even if the dust returns immediately. Because in that moment of clarity, we remember that the mirror is still there, that we are still there, beneath the dust, bright and clear." He looked up at the moon, its light now silvering the tops of the mountains. "Suffering is like the dust," he said. "It comes, it goes, it covers the mirror, but it does not change the mirror's nature. It does not change our nature. We are still capable of reflecting the world, of seeing clearly, of finding peace. We just need to remember to wipe." In the days that followed, the mirror became a kind of symbol for the monks. They would see the monk and the novice cleaning it in the evenings, and they would smile, remembering the abbot's lesson. Some began to bring their own small objects to clean old bowls, tarnished bells, pieces of driftwood, using the act of cleaning as a form of meditation, a way to practice presence, to wipe away the dust of their own minds. The abbot would often stop by, watching them work, his face soft with approval. "You have turned a simple mirror into a teacher," he said to the monk one evening. "The mirror was always a teacher," the monk said. "We just needed to clean it to hear its lesson." And so the months passed. The mirror grew brighter, its surface now reflecting not just the moon and the sun and the mountains, but the faces of the monks who looked into it, faces that, over time, seemed to grow softer, more open, more at peace, as if the mirror's clarity were contagious. One day, a traveler came to the temple, a woman with a face lined with grief, her eyes red from crying. She told the monks that her husband had died, that she was lost, that she did not know how to go on. The monk thought of the mirror, and he brought it to her. "Look," he said, holding it up so she could see her reflection, and beyond it, the garden, the flowers, the blue sky. She looked, but her eyes were clouded with tears. "I see only sadness," she said. "Look again," the monk said, gently, wiping the mirror's surface with his cloth. "Look beyond the sadness. Look at the mirror itself." She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, then opened them again. This time, she looked not at her reflection, but at the glass, at its smooth, clear surface. And for a moment, her grief seemed to soften, as if the mirror's clarity had touched something within her. "I see," she said, her voice quiet. "I see that the sadness is there, but it is not all there is. There is still beauty. There is still life. There is still me." The monk nodded. "You are the mirror," he said. "The sadness is the dust. It covers you, but it does not define you. You are still capable of reflecting the world, of finding joy, of going on. You just need to remember to wipe." The woman stayed at the temple for a few days, helping to clean the mirror each evening, her hands slow, deliberate, as if each stroke of the cloth were a step toward healing. When she left, she took with her a small piece of cloth, a reminder to wipe away the dust, to remember the mirror beneath the grief. And the mirror? It continued to hang in the monk's quarters, its surface now almost entirely clear, reflecting the world as it was, bright, beautiful, ever-changing. The monk and the novice still cleaned it each evening, not because it needed it, but because the act of cleaning had become a ritual, a way to connect, to remember, to practice. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, the novice looked into the mirror and smiled. "I think," he said, "that the mirror has cleaned us as much as we have cleaned it." The monk laughed, a warm, rich sound. "That is the way of things," he said. "We think we are changing the world, but the world is changing us too. We think we are cleaning the mirror, but the mirror is cleaning us." He took the mirror from the novice, holding it up to catch the last light of the sun. "See," he said, "the mirror reflects the world, but the world reflects the mirror. It is all one. We are all one dust and mirror, grief and joy, darkness and light." The novice nodded, his eyes shining. "I think I understand," he said. "Enlightenment is not about having a clean mirror. It is about knowing that the mirror is there, even when it is dirty. It is about loving the mirror, dust and all." The monk smiled. "Yes," he said, "that is it exactly." As the stars began to twinkle in the sky, they put the mirror away, folding the cloth neatly around it. The courtyard was quiet now. The only sound the rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant hoot of an owl. They walked back to their quarters, side by side, their hearts light, their minds clear. The monk thought of the mirror, of the lesson it had taught him that clarity is not the absence of dust, but the awareness of it. That peace is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to see beyond it. That the true self is not something to be found, but something to be remembered, again and again, in the quiet moments, in the act of wiping, in the simple, beautiful, messy business of being a live dot, and as he climbed into his bed, his body tired. But his spirit light, he knew that the mirror would be there tomorrow, waiting to be cleaned, waiting to reflect the world, waiting to remind him of the truth that had been there all along, that beneath the dust, beneath the thoughts, beneath the stories, he was bright, he was clear, he was enough, just as he was. The monk's sleep was deep that night, untroubled by dreams. When he woke, the first light of dawn was seeping through the paper screens of his quarters, casting soft patterns on the floor. He stretched slowly, feeling the warmth of the rising sun on his face, then rose and dressed, his movements quiet, deliberate, as if each one were a prayer. He made his way to the garden, as he did every morning, to check on the flower that still grew on the stone. It had bloomed again, its petals a vibrant pink, and he smiled as he knelt beside it, brushing a finger gently over one of the petals. Life, he thought, is full of small miracles if we take the time to notice them. Not as he stood, he noticed the abbot walking toward him, his robes flowing around him like a river of dark cloth. The abbot's face was calm, but there was a glint in his eye, as if he had a secret to share. "Good morning, Venerable One," the monk said, bowing deeply. "Good morning," the abbot said, smiling. "Shall we walk?" They set off down narrow path that led to the edge of the temple grounds where the forest began. The path was lined with moss-covered stones and wildflowers, their scents sweet and earthy in the morning air. Birds sang in the trees, their voices clear and bright, as if welcoming the day. After a while, they came to a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a tree, a large, ancient oak, its branches gnarled and twisted, its trunk blackened, as if by fire. It looked dead, its leaves long since fallen, its bark cracked and peeling. The monk frowned. He had walked this path many times, but he had never noticed this tree before. "What is this place?" he asked. "This is the place of the withered tree," the abbot said. "It has stood here for over 100 years. A fire swept through this part of the forest decades ago, and this tree was left for dead. The villagers said it was cursed, that nothing would ever grow here again. But they were wrong." The monk looked at the tree, but he saw nothing but death. No leaves, no buds, no sign of life. "I do not understand," he said. The abbot smiled. "Look closer," he said. The monk stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he examined the tree. Its trunk was indeed blackened, its branches bare, but as he leaned in, he noticed something, a small green shoot, pushing through a crack in the bark, its tip curled like a question mark. He gasped. "It is alive," he said, his voice soft with wonder. "It has always been alive," the abbot said. "It was simply waiting for the right time, the right conditions, to reveal itself." He placed a hand on the tree's trunk, his touch gentle, as if he were comforting an old friend. "This tree has much to teach us," he said. "It has endured fire, drought, storm. It has been written off as dead, as useless, as beyond hope. And yet, here it is, still alive, still growing, still reaching for the sun." The monk nodded. Slowly, thinking of the woman with the grief-stricken face, of how she had thought her life was over, but had found a glimmer of hope in the mirror. He thought of the mirror itself, of how it had been tarnished and forgotten, but had regained its brightness with patience and care. He thought of the stone, of how it had seemed barren and lifeless, but had nurtured a flower. "Life is like this tree," the abbot said, as if reading his thoughts. "It is full of endings, loss, disappointment, suffering. But endings are not the end. They are simply pauses, moments of waiting, opportunities for new beginnings." He turned to the monk, his eyes calm. "I want you to tend to this tree," he said. "Not with urgency, not with expectation, but with the same patience, the same care you gave to the mirror, to the stone. Watch it, learn from it, see what it has to teach you." The monk bowed deeply. "I will do as you say, revered one," he said. And so, each morning, after checking on the flower, the monk made his way to the clearing to tend to the withered tree. He brought water from the well, pouring it slowly, carefully, around the base of the trunk. He cleared away the dead leaves and branches that had fallen around it, creating a small, sacred space. He talked to it, sometimes about the day ahead, about the lessons he was learning, about the beauty of the morning. At first, nothing seemed to change. The tree remained gnarled and blackened, the small green shoot barely visible. The monk began to worry. Had he done something wrong? Was the tree beyond saving after all? But then he remembered the abbot's words, not with urgency, not with expectation. He let go of his worries, his doubts, and simply continued to tend to the tree. Day after day, with patience, with care. Weeks passed. Spring turned to summer, and the forest around the tree burst into life, ferns unfurling their delicate fronds, wildflowers carpeting the ground in a riot of color, birds building nests in the branches of neighboring trees. The withered tree, though, remained the same. One afternoon, as the monk knelt beside the tree, pouring water around its base, the novice joined him. The novice was now a young man, his face strong, his eyes filled with the quiet wisdom of someone who has learned to be patient. "Venerable one," he said, "why do you tend to this tree? It is dead. It will never grow leaves again, never bear fruit, never provide shade. You are wasting your time." The monk smiled, remembering a time long ago when he had said something similar to the monk who had tended to the flower on the stone. "Is it dead?" he said, "or is it simply resting, growing in a way we cannot see?" He pointed to the small, green shoot which had grown a little taller, a little stronger, though it was still barely visible. "This shoot, does it not tell us that there is life here, even if we cannot see it? That beneath the surface, beneath the damage, beneath the darkness, there is still hope?" The novice frowned. "But it is so small, so fragile. What if it dies?" "Then it dies," the monk said, his voice calm. "But that does not mean our tending was in vain. We tend not because we expect a certain outcome, but because tending is an act of love, of faith, of respect for life, even life that seems broken, that seems hopeless." He stood, brushing off his robes. "Think of the mirror," he said. "We cleaned it not because we knew it would shine, but because we knew it was capable of shining. Think of the stone. We planted seeds not because we knew they would grow, but because we knew they were capable of growing. It is the same with this tree. We tend to it not because we know it will bloom, but because we know it is capable of blooming, even if it does not bloom in the way we expect, even if it does not bloom in our lifetime." The novice nodded slowly, his eyes widening as he began to understand. "So tending is not about the tree," he said. "It is about us, about our willingness to see life where others see death, to have faith where others have doubt, to love where others have given up." The monk smiled. "Yes," he said, "that is it exactly." In the days that followed, the novice joined the monk in tending to the tree. They worked together in silence, their hands moving in gentle, rhythmic motions, their breaths in sync. They watched as the small green shoot grew taller, stronger, as new shoots began to push through the bark, as tiny leaves unfurled, bright and green, reaching for the sun. The tree, it seemed, was coming back to life. One morning, as they knelt beside the tree, the monk noticed something. A small bird had built a nest in one of the new branches. He pointed it out to the novice, who smiled, his eyes shining. "See," the monk said, "life attracts life. Hope begets hope. This tree, which was once written off as dead, is now a home, a sanctuary, a source of life for others." The novice nodded. "I think I understand now," he said. "The tree was never really dead. It was just waiting for someone to see its potential, to have faith in it, to tend to it. It was waiting for love." The monk laughed, a warm, rich sound. "Love," he said. "Yes, love is the water that nourishes even the driest roots. Love is the light that helps even the smallest shoot reach for the sun. Love is the faith that sees life where others see only death." As the months passed, the tree continued to grow. Its branches, once gnarled and blackened, now sprouted new growth, covered in leaves that shimmered in the sunlight. It was not a perfect tree. Its trunk still bore the scars of the fire. Its branches still twisted in places, but it was alive, vibrant, full of life. Villagers began to visit the clearing, their faces filled with wonder. They had heard stories of the withered tree that had come back to life, and they came to see it for themselves. Some brought offerings, water, flowers, small stones, and placed them at the base of the tree, as if it were a sacred object. The monk and the novice welcomed them, telling them the story of the tree, of how it had taught them about patience, about faith, about love. And as they told the story, They saw something change in the villagers, their faces softening, their eyes brightening, as if the tree's resilience had touched something within them. One day, a man came to the clearing. He was old, his back bent with age, his hands gnarled with arthritis. He looked at the tree for a long while, his eyes filling with tears. "I was here," he said, his voice trembling, "when the fire came. I was a boy then. I watched as this tree burned, as the flames consumed its leaves, its branches, its very life. I thought it was gone forever. I thought all was lost." He turned to the monk, his eyes shining. "But here it is, alive, growing, thriving. It is a miracle." The monk smiled. "It is not a miracle," he said. "It is life. Life is resilient. Life is persistent. Life finds a way, even in the darkest of times, even in the most hopeless of situations." He placed a hand on the man's shoulder, his touch gentle. "We are like this tree, you and I. We have been burned by life. We have been scarred, broken, left for dead. But we are still here. We are still growing. We are still reaching for the sun." The man nodded, his tears flowing freely now. "I have been so angry," he said. "Angry at the fire, angry at the loss, angry at the years that have passed, leaving me old and tired. But looking at this tree, I feel something else. I feel hope. I feel peace. I feel alive." The monk smiled. "That is the tree's gift," he said. "It does not just grow. It helps others grow too. It does not just heal. It helps others heal too. It reminds us that no matter how broken we are, no matter how scarred, no matter how hopeless things seem, there is always life, always hope, always the possibility of new beginnings." The man stayed for a while, sitting beneath the tree, his back resting against its trunk, as if he were drawing strength from it. When he left, he walked a little, taller, his step a little lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The monk watched him go, then turned back to the tree. He placed his hand on its trunk, feeling its warmth, its strength, its life. He thought of all the lessons it had taught him, that life is resilient, that hope is powerful, that love is the most potent force in the universe. He thought, too, of the mirror, of the stone, of the rain, of the tea, of all the teachers that had guided him on his journey. Each one had taught him something different, but they all pointed to the same truth, that life is a miracle, that we are all connected, that even in the darkest of times, there is light dot as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The monk and the novice gathered their things and prepared to leave. The tree stood tall in the gathering darkness, its leaves rustling in the breeze, as if whispering secrets to the stars. "Tomorrow," the monk said, "we will bring more water, and we will watch as it grows a little more." The novice nodded, his eyes shining. "Yes," he said, "and we will remember. We will remember that even the most withered tree can bloom again. Even the darkest night can give way to dawn. Even the deepest wounds can heal." The monk smiled. "Yes," he said, "we will remember." And as they walked back to the temple, their shadows stretching long behind them, the monk knew that the tree would be there tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that, growing, healing, thriving. And he knew that he would be there, too, tending to it, learning from it, remembering the truth that it had taught him, that life is always worth tending to, that hope is always worth holding on to, that even in the darkest of times, there is always, always, always the possibility of new life. The path back to the temple was bathed in the soft glow of the moon, which hung low in the sky like a lantern. Crickets chirped in the grass, their songs mixing with the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The monk walked slowly, savoring the quiet, the peace, the sense that all was right with the world. Beside him, the novice walked in silence, his eyes fixed on the path ahead, as if he were still turning over the tree's lessons in his mind. When they reached the temple gates, they paused. The sound of the evening bell was just dying away, its last echo lingering in the air like a sigh. The monk smiled. Bells had always held a special meaning for him, their clear, resonant tone a reminder of the impermanence of things, of the need to wake up, to be present, to pay attention. "Listen," he said to the novice, his voice soft. "Do you hear it?" The novice tilted his head, frowning. "I hear nothing but silence," he said. "Exactly," the monk said. "The bell has sounded, and now it is silent. But does that mean it is gone? Or is its echo still with us, in our minds, in our hearts?" The novice thought for a moment, then smiled. "It is still with us," he said. "Just as the tree's lessons are still with us, even when we are not in the clearing. Just as the mirror's clarity is still with us, even when our minds are clouded." The monk nodded. "Yes," he said. "Some things do not need to be seen or heard to be felt. Some truths are carried in the silence, in the spaces between, moments in the quiet corners of our hearts." They entered the temple, their sandals clicking against the stone courtyard. The other monks were gathered in the dining hall, their voices rising and falling in gentle conversation. The scent of warm soup filled the air, and the monk's stomach growled softly. It had been a long day, and he was hungry, but as he walked toward the dining hall, something stopped him. A feeling, a sense that there was something he needed to do, somewhere he needed to be. He turned to the novice. "I will join you shortly," he said. "I need to check on something." The novice nodded, and the monk turned and walked toward the bell tower, which stood at the far end of the courtyard, its wooden structure weathered by time and wind. He had always loved the bell tower, its quiet, its solitude, the way it seemed to stand apart from the rest of the temple, as if watching over it. He climbed the narrow, winding stairs, his hands brushing against the rough wooden walls. At the top, he stepped out onto a small platform. The bell hung in the center, its bronze surface dulled by age, but still beautiful in its simplicity. The monk ran a hand over it, feeling its coolness, its weight, its history. This bell had been rung for centuries. He thought by monks long gone, by travelers seeking refuge, by villagers marking the passage of time. It had rung in times of joy and times of sorrow, in times of plenty and times of scarcity. It had rung for births and deaths, for celebrations and mournings. And through it all, it had remained steadfast, true, a witness to the ebb and flow of life. As he stood there, lost in thought, he heard the sound of footsteps on the stairs. He turned to see a traveler man in his middle years, his robes dusty from the road, his face lined with weariness, but his eyes bright with a kind of restlessness, as if he were searching for something. "Pardon me," the traveler said, bowing slightly. "I hope I am not intruding. I heard the bell earlier, and I wanted to see it for myself. There is something about its sound it calls to me, somehow." The monk smiled. "You are not intruding," he said. "The bell belongs to no one, and to everyone. It calls to all who are willing to listen." The traveler stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the bell. "I have been traveling for many years," he said, his voice soft. "Seeking enlightenment, I suppose. I have visited temples and monasteries, spoken to masters and scholars, studied sutras and teachings. But I still feel lost, as if I am missing something obvious, something right in front of me." The monk nodded. "Many of us feel that way," he said. "We search for enlightenment in far-off places, in ancient texts, in the words of others. But sometimes it is closer than we think, in the sound of a bell, in the rustle of leaves, in the quiet moments between breaths." The traveler frowned. "But how? How do I find it? I have tried everything: meditation, fasting, prayer. Nothing. works. I still feel the same empty, restless, unfulfilled. The monk thought of the stone, of the mirror, of the tree. Perhaps you are trying too hard, he said. Enlightenment is not something to be found by effort, by striving, by searching. It is something to be remembered, to be realized, to wake up to. He paused, looking out at the moonlit mountains. Think of the bell, he said. It does not strive to ring. It does not effort to make a sound. It simply is until the striker hits it. And then ring it sings clear and true, without hesitation, without doubt. The traveler looked at him, his eyes wide. So I am like the bell, he said. I simply need to be struck. The monk laughed. Not exactly, he said, but perhaps you need to stop striving, to stop searching, to simply be, to be open, to be receptive, to be willing to hear the bell when it rings. He stepped back, gesturing to the bell. Would you like to ring it? He said. The traveler looked surprised. Me? I do not know how. It is easy, the monk said. Just take the striker and hit the bell. Let your arm swing freely, without thought, without effort. Just let it happen. The traveler hesitated and picked up the striker, a heavy wooden rod, smooth from years of use. He held it in his hand, his knuckles white with tension. Relax, the monk said, his voice gentle. Breathe. Let go of your expectations. Just hit the bell and see what happens. The traveler took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and swung the striker. It hit the bell with a loud, resonant clang that echoed through the temple, through the mountains, through the night. The sound was so loud, so unexpected, that the traveler jumped, his eyes flying open. But as the echo died away, something changed. His face softened. His shoulders dropped. The restlessness in his eyes seemed to fade, replaced by a kind of quiet wonder. I feel different, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It is like a weight has been lifted. A fog has cleared. I see everything differently. The monk smiled. What do you see? He said. The traveler looked around, his eyes taking in the bell, the moon, the mountains, the monk. I see that I have been looking in the wrong place, he said. I have been looking for enlightenment outside of myself, but it has been here all along in me, in this moment, in the sound of the bell. He laughed, a joyous, freeing sound. It is so simple, he said, so obvious. I cannot believe I did not see it before. All this time, I have been like a man searching for his keys in the dark, not realizing they are in his hand. The monk nodded. That is the nature of awakening, he said. It is not a journey to a far-off land. It is a realization that we are already home. It is not a discovery of something new. It is a remembering of something we have always known. The traveler placed the striker back on its stand, his hands now steady, calm. Thank you, he said, bowing deeply. You have given me a gift I cannot repay. The bell, it woke me up. It showed me that I was already awake. The monk bowed in return. I did nothing, he said. The bell was always here. You were always here. It was simply a matter of time, of being open, of being willing to listen. They stood together for a while, in silence, watching the moon rise higher in the sky. The air was cool, crisp, filled with the scent of pine and the distant sound of a stream. The monk felt a deep sense of gratitude, not for himself, but for the bell, for the traveler, for the moment itself, perfect and complete. Eventually, the traveler turned to him. I think I will stay here for a while, he said. Not to seek enlightenment, but to live it, to be present, to savor each moment, to listen for the bell in the silence. The monk smiled. You are welcome here, he said. The temple has room for all who wish to wake up. The traveler bowed again, then turned and walked down the stairs, his steps light, his posture upright, as if he were a new man. The monk watched him go, then turned back to the bell, its surface now catching the moonlight, glowing softly. He thought of the traveler's words, "I see everything differently." It was true, he realized. Awakening does not change the world. It changes how we see the world. It does not make the mountains taller or the moon brighter, but it makes us notice their beauty, their wonder, their sacredness. It does not erase suffering or hardship, but it helps us see beyond them to the life that continues unbroken. Beneath the surface dot, as he climbed down the stairs, the sound of the bell still echoing in his mind, he thought of all the teachers. He had known the monk with the stone, the old man with the tea, the abbot with the mirror, the tree with its scars and its new growth. They had all taught him the same lesson, in different ways, that awakening is not a destination, but a way of being. That it is not something we achieve, but something we are in each moment, if we are willing to be open, to be present, to be awake. When he entered the dining hall, the novice looked up, smiling. "You missed the soup," he said. The monk laughed. "Some things are more important than soup," he said. The novice nodded, his eyes understanding. "The bell?" he said. "The bell," the monk said. They sat together, sharing a bowl of rice and a plate of pickled vegetables, their conversation soft, their laughter gentle. Outside, the moon continued to rise, casting its silver light over the temple, over the mountains, over the world. And somewhere, in the distance, a bell rang once, clear and true, then fell silent, leaving only its echo, a reminder that even in the silence, there is sound. Even in the darkness, there is light. Even in the sleep, there is wakefulness. That night, as the monk lay in bed, his body tired but his spirit light, he thought of the traveler, of the bell, of the moment of awakening. He thought of how simple it had been, just a sound, a moment, a realization, no effort, no striving, no searching, just being and listening and seeing. He smiled, closing his eyes. Life, he thought, is full of bells. Some are loud, some are soft. Some ring once, some ring many times. But they are all calling to us, if we are willing to listen. Calling us to wake up, to be present, to see the beauty, the wonder, the sacredness of this moment, right here, right now. And as he drifted off to sleep, the echo of the bell still lingering in his mind, he knew that he would wake up tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that, ready to listen to the bell, to the silence, to the world, to himself, ready to be awake. The monk's sleep was gentle that night, woven through with dreams of bells and moonlight. When he woke, the sun was already high in the sky, streaming through the window and warming his face. He stretched slowly, feeling the warmth seep into his bones, then rose and dressed, his movements unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world. He made his way to the dining hall, where the other monks were already seated, eating their morning meal. The traveler from the bell tower was there, too, sitting beside the novice, his face calm, his eyes bright. When he saw the monk, he smiled and bowed slightly, a silent greeting that spoke volumes. The monk smiled back, then took his place at the table. The meal was simple rice, pickled vegetables, a cup of green tea, but it tasted like a feast, as all meals do when shared with those who are awake, who are present. After breakfast, the monk walked to the garden, as he did every morning. The flower on the stone was still blooming, its petals now a deep, rich pink, and he paused to admire it, his heart filled with gratitude. Life, he thought, is full of such moments, small, perfect, fleeting. It is up to us to notice them, to savor them, to let them fill us with joy. As he stood there, he heard the sound of children's laughter. He turned to see a group of village children playing near the pond at the edge of the garden, their voices high and clear, their faces flushed with excitement. They were chasing each other, splashing in the water, their laughter echoing through the temple grounds. The monk smiled. He had always loved children, their joy, their curiosity, their ability to be fully present in the moment, without a care in the world. He walked toward them, his steps slow, not wanting to disturb their play dot as he approached. He noticed one child, a small boy with shaggy black hair and bright, eager eyes, kneeling at the edge of the pond, his hand stretched out toward the water. The monk frowned, curious, then realized what the boy was doing. The moon had set only a few hours before, but its reflection still lingered in the water, a shimmering silver circle that seemed to dance just beneath the surface. The boy was trying to catch it, his fingers reaching for the reflection, his face set in a determined frown. "Almost," he muttered, his voice tight with concentration. "Just a little closer." He stretched further, his body leaning over the water, his fingers brushing the surface, sending ripples out across the pond and shattering the moon into 1,000 tiny pieces. The boy sighed, his shoulders slumping, but he didn't give up. He waited for the water to still, for the moon's reflection to reform, then tried again, reaching, stretching, straining only to watch the moon shatter once more. The other children laughed, pointing and calling out to him. "You can't catch the moon, Taro," one said. "It's not real." "It is real," Taro said, his voice fierce. "I just need to be faster. I just need to try harder." The monk smiled, remembering the traveler in the bell tower, seeking enlightenment with the same fierce determination. He walked over to Taro and knelt beside him, his robes pooling around him like a dark cloud. "Hello, little one," he said, his voice soft. "What are you doing?" Taro looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "I'm catching the moon," he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "But it keeps getting away." The monk nodded. "It is a tricky thing, the moon," he said. "It likes to play hide and seek, does it not?" Taro frowned. "I just need to try harder," he said. "My father says that if you want something badly enough, you can get it. You just have to never give up." The monk thought of his father, of the lessons he had taught, of the strength and determination he had modeled. He thought, too, of the many times he had tried to get enlightenment, to achieve peace, to find happiness, only to realize that the harder he tried, the further away they seemed. "Your father is wise," the monk said. "But sometimes the things we want most are not meant to be caught. They are meant to be admired, to be cherished, to be let be." He pointed to the moon's reflection in the water. "That moon, does it not look beautiful, just as it is? Dancing on the water, shining in the sunlight? Would catching it not take away its beauty? Would it not stop it from dancing?" Taro thought for a moment, his brows furrowed. "But I want to hold it," he said. "I want to keep it." The monk smiled. "Ah," he said, "wanting to hold on to things, to keep them, to make them ours, that is a very human thing. But the moon is not ours to keep. It belongs to the sky, to the water, to the world. It is a gift given to us to enjoy, but not to possess." He paused, looking up at the sky, where the real moon was still visible, a faint silver sliver against the blue. "The real moon is up there," he said, "shining, even when we cannot see it, even when we are not trying to catch it. It does not need us to hold it, to keep it, to possess it. It simply is, and in being, it brings light to the world." Taro looked up at the real moon, then back at its reflection in the water. "But I can't reach the real moon," he said, his voice small. "No," the monk said, "but you can see it. You can feel its light on your face. You can let it fill you with wonder. Sometimes seeing is enough. Sometimes Being with is enough. He placed a hand on Taro's shoulder, his touch gentle. What if you stopped trying? To catch the moon? He said. What if you just sat here with me and watched it? Would that be so bad? Taro hesitated, then slowly pulled his hand back from the water. He sat down beside the monk, his legs crossed, his eyes fixed on the moon's reflection. For a moment, he fidgeted, his hands moving as if he were still trying to catch it. But then, slowly, he relaxed. He let his hands rest in his lap, his shoulders drop, his breath slow. And as he watched, something changed. The moon's reflection seemed to grow brighter, more vivid. The ripples in the water, which had once annoyed him, now seemed like part of the dance, part of the beauty. He smiled, a small, secret smile that touched his lips without him even realizing it. It is pretty, he said, his voice soft. Yes, the monk said. It is. They sat together for a long while, watching the moon's reflection, listening to the children's laughter, feeling the sun warm their faces. The monk thought of the traveler, of the bell, of the tree, of the mirror, of the stone, of all the lessons he had learned, all the ways he had tried to catch the moon, only to realize that it was already there, shining, if he would just stop and look. Eventually, Taro stood up. I'm going to play with the others, he said. Thank you, monk. The monk smiled. Thank you, Taro, he said. You have taught me something too. Taro frowned. What? He said, to play, the yell. Monk said, to let go, to enjoy the moon without trying to catch it. Taro laughed, a bright, joyous sound, then ran off to join the other children, his earlier determination forgotten, replaced by the simple joy of being. The monk watched him go, then turned back to the pond. The moon's reflection was still there, shimmering, dancing, perfect. He thought of how often we spend our lives chasing things happiness, success, love, enlightenment, only to realize that they are already here, if we would just stop and look and be. He thought of the traveler who had spent years searching for enlightenment, only to find it in the sound of a bell, in a single moment of clarity. He thought of the tree which had survived fire and drought, not by striving, but by simply being, by trusting in its own resilience. He thought of the mirror, which had regained its brightness not through force, but through patience, through care, through gentle tending. Life, he realized, is not about catching the moon. It is about watching it dance. It is not about possessing, but about appreciating. It is not about striving, but about being. As he stood up to leave, he noticed the traveler standing at the edge of the garden, watching him. When he saw the monk, he smiled and walked over. I saw you with the boy, he said. You taught him well. The monk shook his head. He taught me, he said. He reminded me that sometimes the best way to enjoy the moon is to let it be. The traveler nodded, his eyes understanding. I have been thinking about that, he said, about how much of my life I have spent chasing things enlightenment, happiness, meaning only to feel more lost, more empty, more alone. It is as if the harder I try, the further away they get. The monk smiled. It is like trying to catch the moon in the water, he said. The more you reach, the more it slips away. But when you stop, when you let go, when you just be, it is there, shining, if you will just look. They stood together for a while, watching the moon's reflection in the pond, listening to the children's laughter, feeling the sun on their faces. The traveler closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, as if he were trying to absorb the moment, to let it sink into his bones. I think I am beginning to understand, he said, his voice soft. Enlightenment is not something to be caught. It is something to be lived. It is not a destination. It is a way of seeing, of being, of relating to the world. The monk nodded. Yes, he said, it is like the moon. It is always there, shining, even when we cannot see it. Even when we are too busy chasing it to notice. The traveler smiled. "Thank you," he said, "for the bell, for the moon, for reminding me to stop and look." The monk bowed slightly. "Thank you," he said, "for reminding me too." They walked back to the temple together, their steps slow, their conversation soft. The traveler spoke of his plans to stay at the temple for a while, to help with the chores, to meditate, to simply be. The monk listened, his heart filled with joy, knowing that the traveler had finally stopped chasing the moon and had begun to let it shine. As they entered the temple courtyard, the monk noticed the abbot standing on the porch of his quarters, watching them. When he saw the monk, he smiled and nodded as if he knew exactly what had happened, as if he had been waiting for this moment. The monk smiled back, feeling a deep sense of gratitude not for himself, but for the journey, for the lessons, for the moon, for the boy, for the traveler, for all the ways life reminds us to stop, to look, to be. That evening, as the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the monk sat on the porch of his quarters, watching the moon rise. It was a full moon, bright and round, hanging low in the sky like a lantern. Its light spilled over the temple grounds, turning the pond into a sheet of silver, the trees into shadows, the world into a dream. He thought of Taro, of the way he had let go of his determination to catch the moon, of the joy he had found in simply watching it. He thought of the traveler, of the way he had let go of his search for enlightenment, of the peace he had found in simply being. He thought of himself, of all the ways he had learned to let go of his expectations, his fears, his need to control, and of the freedom he had found in that letting go. The moon rose higher in the sky, its light growing brighter, more intense. The monk closed his eyes, letting the light wash over him, letting it fill him with peace, with joy, with a sense of oneness with the world. He knew that tomorrow he would wake up and the moon would be gone, hidden by the sun. But he also knew that it would return, as it always did, as it always had, as it always would. And when it did, he would be there, watching, appreciating, letting it shine. For he had learned at last that the moon is not ours to catch. It is ours to admire, to cherish, to let be. And in that letting be, in that simple act of appreciation, we find something far more precious than any moon we could ever catch. We find peace. We find joy. We find ourselves exactly as we are, perfect and imperfect, shining in the light of our own being. The moon hung low over the temple, its light spilling through the branches of the banyan tree like liquid silver. The monk sat on his porch, his eyes closed, his breath slow and steady. He could hear the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant hoot of an owl, the gentle murmur of the stream that ran through the valley below. It was a night of perfect peace, a night that seemed to wrap around him like a blanket, warm and comforting. As he sat there, he felt a light touch on his shoulder. He opened his eyes to see the abbot standing beside him, his face calm, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "May I join you?" The abbot said. The monk smiled and nodded, moving over to make room. The abbot sat down, his robes pooling around him like a dark cloud, and together they watched the moon rise higher in the sky, its light growing brighter, more intense. "Beautiful, is it not?" the abbot said, his voice soft. "Yes," the monk said, "but all beauty fades. The moon will set, the night will end, the sun will rise. And then, in time, the sun will set and the moon will rise again. It is the way of things." The abbot nodded. "The way of things," he said. "Birth, growth, decay, death, rebirth. It is the cycle that governs all life, from the smallest flower to the tallest mountain, from the tiniest insect to the mightiest king. He paused, his gaze drifting to the ground, where a single leaf had fallen from the banyan tree, its edges curled and brown, its once green color faded. "Look," he said, pointing to the leaf. It was born in the spring, green and vibrant, reaching for the sun. It grew through the summer, providing shade, capturing light, helping the tree to thrive. And now, in the autumn, it falls, returning to the earth from which it came. And in falling, it nourishes the soil, helping to give life to new leaves. New flowers, new growth. The monk looked at the leaf, its fragile form illuminated by the moonlight. It seemed sad, he said, to fall, to wither, to die. The abbot smiled. Is it sad, or is it simply part of the dance? The leaf does not mourn its fall. It does not resist. It simply lets go, trusting in the cycle, knowing that its death is not an end, but a beginning. He picked up the leaf, his fingers gentle, and held it up to the moonlight. This leaf has served its purpose, he said. It has lived, it has grown, it has given. Now it rests, returning to the earth, becoming part of something new. Is that not beautiful? Is that not a kind of perfection? The monk thought of the flower on the stone, of how it had bloomed and faded, only to bloom again. He thought of the tree that had survived the fire, of how it had withered and then grown anew. He thought of the mirror, of how it had been tarnished and then polished, its beauty restored. He thought of the bell, of how it had rung and then fallen silent, its echo lingering in the air. Everything has its season, he said, his voice soft. Everything has its time to live, to grow, to die, to be reborn. The abbot nodded. And yet, we resist, he said. We cling to life, to youth, to beauty, to success, as if they will last forever. We mourn the passing of time, the fading of beauty, the loss of those we love, as if it is a tragedy, a mistake, a failure of the universe. He placed the leaf back on the ground, where it lay, peaceful and still. But it is not a tragedy, it is a miracle. The miracle of life, in all its forms, in all its seasons. The miracle of change, of growth, of transformation. The miracle of letting go, of trusting in the cycle, of knowing that even in death, there is life. The monk thought of his own life, of the years that had passed, of the changes he had undergone, of the losses he had suffered, of the joys he had known. He thought of the young novice he had once been, eager and arrogant, full of questions and doubts. He thought of the man he was now, older, wiser, more at peace with himself and the world. I have feared the passing of time, he said, his voice honest. Feared growing old, feared losing those I love, feared the end of things. The abbot placed a hand on his shoulder, his touch gentle. Fear is natural, he said, but it is not helpful. It blinds us to the beauty of each moment, to the gifts that each season brings. Youth has its joys, but so does age. Life has its sweetness, but so does death, in its own way. It is all part of the same tapestry, woven together, each thread necessary, each color beautiful in its own right. They sat together for a long while, watching the moon, listening to the night, thinking of leaves and cycles and the miracle of life. The monk felt a deep sense of peace settle over him, a sense of acceptance, of trust. He realized that he no longer feared the passing of time, the fading of beauty, the end of things. He saw that each moment was precious, each season a gift, each ending a new beginning. Eventually, the abbot stood. It is time to rest, he said. The moon will continue its journey, and so must we. The monk stood too, bowing deeply. Thank you, he said, for the leaf, for the lesson, for helping me to see. The abbot smiled. You were? Already seeing, he said. I simply helped you to notice. With that, the abbot turned and walked back to his quarters, his steps slow, deliberate, as if he were savoring each moment of the journey. The monk watched him go, then turned back to the moon, which was now high in the sky, its light pouring down on the temple, on the garden, on the world. He thought of the leaf, lying on the ground, peaceful and still. He thought of how it had lived, how it had grown, how it had fallen, how it would nourish the earth. He thought of how we are all like that leaf, born, growing, falling, returning to the earth, becoming part of something new. It was a beautiful thought, a comforting thought, a thought that made him feel connected to everything, to the tree, to the earth, to the moon, to the stars, to all living things, past, present, and future. He turned and walked to his bed, his steps light, his heart full. As he lay down, he felt a deep sense of gratitude, not for anything in particular, but for everything, for the miracle of life, for the beauty of the cycle, for the gift of being part of it all. He closed his eyes, and as he drifted off to sleep, he thought of the leaf and of how it had taught him the final lesson, the lesson that all things must pass, but that nothing is ever truly lost, that life is a cycle, a dance, a miracle, and that we are all part of it, forever and always. The next morning, the monk woke to the sound of birds singing, their voices bright and clear, welcoming the new day. He rose and dressed, then walked to the garden as he did every morning. The flower on the stone was still blooming, its petals now a deep, rich red, and he paused to admire it, his heart filled with joy. As he stood there, he noticed a group of monks gathered near the banyan tree, their heads bowed, their voices soft. He walked over to see what was happening and found them digging a small hole in the ground. In the center of the hole, placed carefully, gently, was the leaf the abbot had picked up the night before. The abbot says it should return to the earth, one of the monks said, that it should begin its next journey. The monk smiled. Yes, he said, it should. Together, they covered the leaf with soil, their hands gentle, reverent. As they worked, the sun rose higher in the sky, its warmth seeping into the earth, into the leaf, into the monks themselves. When they were finished, they stood back, looking at the small mound of earth that marked the leaf's resting place. It was a simple act, a small act, but it felt sacred, meaningful, as if they were participating in a great mystery, a great miracle. The leaf is home, the monk said, his voice soft. Yes, the abbot said, who had joined them silently. We are all home, in our own way. Home in the cycle, home in the dance, home in the miracle of life. The monk nodded, his eyes filling with tears, not of sadness, but of joy, of gratitude, of understanding. He knew that one day, he too would fall like the leaf, returning to the earth from which he came. And he knew that in falling, he would nourish the soil, helping to give life to new things, new people, new possibilities. It was a beautiful thought, a comforting thought, a thought that made him feel alive, truly alive, in this moment, right? Here, right now. As the monks dispersed, returning to their chores, their meditations, their lives, the monks stayed behind, standing beside the small mound of earth, watching as the sun's rays danced on the soil, as a small bug crawled across the ground, as a bird landed on a nearby branch, singing its heart out. He thought of the leaf, of its journey, of its beauty, of its peace. He thought of his own journey, of all the lessons he had learned, all the people he had met, all the moments he had cherished. He thought of the future, of the unknown, of the mystery that lay ahead, and he smiled, for he knew that it was all part of the same cycle, the same dance, the same miracle, and he was grateful to be part of it, to be alive, to be home. The sun climbed higher in the sky, painting the temple grounds in gold. The monk stood beside the small mound where the leaf lay buried, watching as a butterfly alighted on the soil, its wings opening and closing in slow, deliberate motions. It was a sign, he thought, a gentle reminder that life goes on, that transformation is always possible, that even in death, there is beauty. He turned as he heard footsteps behind him. The novice, now a young monk, his face marked by the quiet wisdom of years spent in practice, walked toward him, his hands clasped behind his back, a small smile on his face. "Venerable one," he said, bowing slightly, "the abbot asks for you. He is in the meditation hall." The monk nodded. "I will go at once," he said, as he walked toward the meditation hall. He thought of the abbot, of his wisdom, his patience, his gentle guidance. He had been a teacher, a mentor, a friend, and the monk felt a deep sense of gratitude for all he had learned from him. He wondered what the abbot wanted, whether it was a question, a task, or simply a moment of quiet companionship. When he entered the meditation hall, he found the abbot sitting on a small cushion at the front of the room, his eyes closed, his hands resting gently on his knees. The hall was empty, save for the two of them, and the air smelled of sandalwood, calm and serene. The monk bowed deeply, then took a seat across from the abbot, his back straight, his hands resting in his lap. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the soft rustle of their breath, the distant chirp of a bird outside. Finally, the abbot opened his eyes, his gaze steady, warm. "You have come a long way," he said, his voice soft. The monk smiled. "I have been guided well," he said. The abbot nodded. "Guidance is important," he said, "but the willingness to walk the path is what matters most. And you have walked it with courage, with curiosity, with an open heart." He paused, his gaze drifting to the window, where sunlight streamed in, casting a bright rectangle on the floor. "I am growing old," he said, his voice matter-of-fact. "My steps are slower, my eyes are dimmer. My time here is drawing to a close." The monk felt a lump form in his throat. He had known this day would come, but he had never truly allowed himself to think about it. The abbot had been a constant in his life, a rock, a guiding light. The thought of life without him was almost too much to bear. I do not know what to say," he said, his voice tight. The abbot smiled. "There is no need to say anything," he said. "It is the way of things. The leaf falls, the tree remains. The moon sets, the sun rises. Life goes on in its own way, in its own time." He reached into the sleeve of his robe and pulled out a small brass lamp, its surface polished to a shine. He held it out to the monk, his hands steady. "This lamp has been in the temple for generations," he said. "It was lit by the first abbot and by each abbot after him. It has guided monks through dark nights, through storms, through moments of doubt and fear. It is a symbol of the light that never goes out, the light of wisdom, of compassion, of awakening." The monk took the lamp, his fingers brushing against the abbot's. He felt its weight, its warmth, its history. "What would you have me do with it?" he said. "Keep it lit," the abbot said. "Not with oil, but with your practice, with your presence, with your willingness to guide others as you have been guided. When I am gone, you will be the one to carry this light, to pass it on to the next generation, to ensure that it never goes out." The monk looked down at the lamp, its surface reflecting his face, serious, determined. "I will honor it," he said. "I will honor you. I will keep the light burning." The abbot nodded. "I know you will," he said. "But remember, this light is not yours to possess. It is yours to share. It is a flame that can light 1,000 lamps, a river that can feed 1,000 streams. The more you give it away, the brighter it burns." He placed a hand on the monk's shoulder, his touch gentle, reassuring. "You have learned well," he said. you have learned that awakening is not a destination, but a journey. That wisdom is not a possession, but a gift to be shared. That life is a cycle, a dance, a miracle to be cherished in all its forms. The monk thought of the stone, of the flower that had grown from it, of the old man with the tea, of the cup that had taught him about emptiness, of the rain, of the way it had taught him about acceptance, of the brothers, of the paths that had led them to the same truth, of the mirror, of the leaf, of the bell, of the moon, of all the teachers, all the lessons, all the moments that had shaped him. "I am ready," he said, his voice steady. The abbot smiled. "I know you are," he said. They sat together for a while longer in silence, the lamp resting on the floor between them, a symbol of the light that connects us all, that transcends time, that never truly goes out. When the monk finally stood to leave, he held the lamp close, as if it were a sacred treasure. "Thank you," he said, bowing deeply, "for everything." The abbot bowed in return. "Go," he said, "and let your light shine." In the days that followed, the monk carried the lamp with him everywhere. He lit it each evening, placing it on the windowsill of his quarters, where its light could be seen from the courtyard, from the garden, from the path that led to the temple. Monks and travelers alike would pause to look at it, their faces softening, their hearts lightening, as if the light itself were a kind of blessing. One evening, as the monk sat beside the lamp, watching its flame dance in the breeze, the young traveler who had once rung the bell joined him. He had stayed at the temple, helping with the chores, meditating, learning, and his face now bore the marks of someone who had found peace, who had woken up. "What is this lamp?" he said, his voice soft. "A symbol," the monk said, "of the light that never goes out, of the wisdom that is passed from one generation to the next, of the awakening that is possible for all of us, if we are willing to seek it, to share it." The traveler nodded. "I would like to learn to keep it lit," he said, "to pass it on as you have." The monk smiled. "That is why it is here," he said, "to be shared, to be passed on, to remind us that we are all connected, that we are all part of the same journey." He stood, holding out his hand to the traveler. "Come," he said, "let us light another lamp. Let us share the light." Together, they walked to the storage room, where they found another small lamp, its surface tarnished, but still beautiful. The monk lit it from the flame of his own lamp, and together they placed it on the traveler's windowsill, where its light joined the first, doubling the brightness, doubling the hope. In the weeks that followed, more lamps were lit, one for the novice, one for the woman who had grieved, one for the brothers who had walked different paths, one for Taro, the little boy who had learned to let the moon be. Each lamp was lit from the one before it, a chain of light that stretched through the temple, through the village, through the valley. And as the light spread, so did the wisdom, the lessons of the stone, of the tea, of the rain, of the mirror, of the leaf, of the bell, of the moon. People began to gather in the evenings, sitting in the courtyard, sharing stories, sharing laughter, sharing the light. They talked of letting go, of acceptance, of presence, of the miracle of life in all its forms. The abbot watched from a distance, his face soft with joy, his heart full. He knew that his work was done, that the light was in good hands, that it would continue to spread, to grow, to illuminate the darkness. One morning, the monk found the abbot sitting on his porch, his eyes closed, his hands resting gently on his lap. He had passed away during the night, his face calm, peaceful, as if he were simply dreaming. The monk felt a wave of grief wash over him, but it was not a grief filled with pain or regret. It was a grief filled with gratitude, with love, with the knowledge that the abbot had lived a good life, a meaningful life, a life that had touched countless others. He lit the brass lamp and placed it beside the abbot's body, its light soft, warm, reassuring. "You are home," he said, his voice soft. "The light will never go out." The abbot's funeral was a simple affair. Monks and villagers gathered in the courtyard, their voices raised in song, their hearts filled with gratitude. The brass lamp was passed from hand to hand, each person holding it for a moment, feeling its warmth, its light, before passing it on. It was a symbol of the abbot's life, of his wisdom, of the light he had shared with so many. After the funeral, the monk stood in the meditation hall, the brass lamp in his hand. He thought of the abbot, of his kindness, his patience, his unwavering faith in the power of light. He thought of the journey they had shared, of all he had learned, of all he had yet to learn. He looked up as the door opened and saw the young traveler standing there, his face calm, his eyes bright. "It is time," the traveler said. The monk nodded. "Yes," he said, "it is time." Together, they walked to the banyan tree, where the leaf lay buried, where new growth was already sprouting from the soil's small green shoots reaching for the sun. The monk placed the brass lamp on the ground, its light shining down on the new growth, as if blessing it, as if welcoming it. "The light is here," he said. "In the earth, in the tree, in the leaves, in the monks, in the villagers, in all of us. It is everywhere, if we are willing to see it." The traveler nodded. "And we will keep it lit," he said. "We will pass it on. We will ensure that it never goes out." The monk smiled. "Yes," he said, "we will." As the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the monk and the traveler sat beneath the banyan tree, watching the brass lamp's flame dance in the breeze. They thought of the abbot, of the leaf, of the stone, of the flower, of all the teachers, all the lessons, all the moments that had brought them here. And they knew that the light would never go out, that it would be passed from generation to generation, from heart to heart, from soul to soul, that it would guide people through dark nights, through storms, through moments of doubt and fear, that it would remind them of the miracle of life, of the beauty of the cycle, of the awakening that is possible for all of us, if we are willing to seek it, to share it, to let it shine. For the light is not in the lamp. It is in us, in our practice, in our presence, in our willingness to love, to learn, to grow. It is in the way we treat each other, in the way we tend to the earth, in the way we savor each moment, each breath, each miracle. It is, and always has been, in the quiet, beautiful, messy business of being alive. From the tenacity of flowers blooming through stone to the warmth of passing lamps like inheritance, these 10 chapters hold the cipher of dialogue between nature and the soul. As the rhythm of rain pattering on banana leaves, the clarity of polishing, a bronze mirror, and the serenity of fallen leaves returning to their roots flow between the lines, you'll realize the Zen of life never lies in distant places, but in every gaze fixed on the present moment. Whether you're a confused wanderer tangled in choices at crossroads, or a light chaser trapped in obsessions, you'll find resonance in these stories. Turns out, the courage of withered wood sprouting in spring, the relief of reaching for the moon's reflection in water, and the awakening brought by temple bells piercing the night have long been written in the laws of heaven and earth. Want to unlock more wisdom that guides the soul home? Follow us, and the next journey will lead you through morning bells and evening drums to understand the profound meanings hidden in ordinary daily life. After all, the answers about growth, acceptance, and inheritance have always lingered in nature's whispers, in the fleeting moments when we awaken. This translation preserves the original Zen atmosphere while ensuring readability in English. If you need adjustments to certain phrases or want to emphasize specific themes, feel free to let me know.